Thank you, everyone. We're so excited that you've decided to join us with the athlete panel on self-advocacy. And we are super excited to have Melanie and Ruth and their group of athletes as they share all their information on self-advocacy. So I will pass it over to Ruth and Melanie.
All right, well, thank you very much. So welcome, everyone. We're very excited that you chose to attend this webinar, and we're really excited to share some stories from our panelists of amazing athletes tonight. First of all, I just wanted to let you guys know who I am. So I'm one of the moderators for this session. My name is Dr. Melanie Perreault. I'm an associate professor of motor behavior at SUNY Brockport. And I am also a researcher and a co-director with the Institute of Movement Studies for individuals with visual impairment and deaf blindness. And I'm joined by my colleague, Ruth Childs, who I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Ruth Childs, and I also work at SUNY Brockport. I teach in the theater department. I've been there for 22 years, and I've been collaborating with Dr. Lauren Lieberman and Dr. Perreault and other members of the IMSVI on self-advocacy in particular. So we created a program for self-advocacy at Capabilities, and we've expanded it out to various other areas, and we're actually finishing up a book on it right now. So I'm really happy to be here. And thank you for having us. And also thank you to our student athletes for giving up a summer evening to join us tonight.
Absolutely. And all of our panelists tonight are actually alumni from Capabilities. So they have attended in the past. So we're really excited to have them join us tonight. So before we get started, I did want to start with just a short video. This was made, I think, a few years ago now at Capabilities. I think this was pre-COVID. But what we did was we filmed a lot of the athletes talking about things relative to self-advocacy. So the title of this video is called I Feel Included. And in it, you're going to hear different athletes talk about what they want in order to feel included in physical education, sport, and physical activity.
The purpose of this video is to help teachers, administrators, professors, paraeducators understand what children with visual impairments want and need to feel included in physical education. One of our bikes, and it cuts from all bikes. I agree.
What makes me feel included in my gym class is
when my peers and friends include me in whatever activity they're doing and I'm not just left on the sidelines.
When I'm working out in the weight room, my coach explains and helps me.
I get first pick on a team.
When I get to participate in many sports, I am able to compete and have fun with my friends.
When people cheer me on during some of the games that we play.
When I excel and help my team at sports that have been modified so I can participate within the group.
When they have the right equipment for me and my friends agree to help me.
When teacher modifies their activities so that way I am able to do it instead of just having me do something else.
When the people ask me if I want to play.
When they ask me first if I want the modification, sometimes, I'd rather, decide for myself if I need it.
Don't say that I can't do something just because I'm blind, because I can.
Try to figure out what they want to do, what they feel comfortable with, and try to, do things to make that possible and let them be with the other group.
A loss of sight is not lost. You are strong.
We are all
normal kids.
We want to be treated that way. We just need some help sometimes. We just want to play with the rest of them.
You can climb, you can hike, you can tumble, you can swim. You can catch, you can throw, you can practice. With a bow, there's a
So one of the reasons we really wanted to start off with this video is because it highlights really the need to understand from the athlete or the child's perspective what they need, and to encourage them to speak up and let others know what they need as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Ruth, who's going to talk a little bit more about self-advocacy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give a little overview of how we see self-advocacy. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines self-advocacy as the act or process of supporting a cause or proposal, the act or process of advocating for something. And this definition does give a general foundation of the spirit of self-advocacy. And I think what's most important is that it's an act, right? We're doing something. Self-advocacy isn't static. It's a verb. It's something that we can do, we can work on, and we can keep working on it throughout our lives. Thank you. So this next slide just describes some of the different components of self-advocacy. And I think it's really helpful to have this basis as we move forward. So the first component is knowledge of self. And when we're learning self-advocacy, the first part of that is understanding who you are as a person. Who am I? What do I want? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? And that knowledge of self is the first component of self-advocacy. The next component is knowledge of rights. And we see this more with the school-age children and young adults. And this is about knowing, well, what am I allowed? Can I sit in on this decision about where I participate in physical education? What am I allowed to do legally? And speaking up for your rights. And that is the next component of self-advocacy. The third component is communication. And this is really, really important because a person might have a sense of what they want to advocate for. They might know that the way they're being treated isn't right. But if this person can't communicate that clearly, it's very, very challenging. So communication is a key part of self-advocacy. And we really try to demystify that process and think of it as something you would learn, just like learning how to play a sport. We can break it down, we can practice it, we can try it in different ways. And that communication part is so crucial. The last component of self-advocacy is something that you could think of as almost a capstone or sort of summiting the mountain of self-advocacy, and that's leadership. When we really understand self-advocacy and understand the process, then we can become leaders in self-advocacy. We can advocate for someone who doesn't have a voice or someone who doesn't feel so confident. So these are the four components of self-advocacy. And I think you'll see elements of each of these in what the students have to say. And it's obvious, but I think it is important to state this, that self-advocacy is for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what age you are. This is a tool that is really, really important and crucial for everyone. So obviously we're focusing on self-advocacy and athletics and physical education tonight, but self-advocacy can teach young people how to speak up, make decisions, find people who can help them and mentor them, and get all the information they need. And I would love to see this as a skill taught to every single child, K through 12. And lastly, this is the format that we developed working at Camp Abilities. And basically, these are the 5 steps to practice self-advocacy. And we asked our student panelists tonight to loosely follow these guidelines as they put together what they wanted to talk about. So the first step is identifying the issue. What is it that I want to advocate for? The second step is, what do I need to resolve the issue? Is it a specific piece of equipment? Is it a book? Is it time? Is it, I want to be prepared? The third step is, who can help me resolve the issue. So who do I need to go and talk to about this? Is it a teacher, a coach, a parent, a guardian? The fourth step is effectively communicating my needs. So obviously that reflects back to that component of self-advocacy we talked about earlier. So what is it that I need, and how do I practice my persuasive speech? And how do I feel confident in my communication? And then the last step is reflecting on my self-advocacy. How did it go? Did I get exactly what I wanted? Did I get some of it? Did I not get anything? And what are my next steps? So these are the 5 steps to self-advocacy. And I think this gives a really nice foundation to practicing advocating for oneself or others. Thanks.
All right, so now we want to turn it over to our panelists. So we have 4 panelists who are joining us tonight. We're going to kind of alternate between them. They're going to be sharing some stories about their experience with self-advocacy, kind of going off of the framework that Ruth just discussed. We would like to ask our participants if you could please put questions in the chat, but hold off until the very last panelist is able to speak. So then that way at the end, we have a time for a Q&A with our entire panel. So definitely keep those questions and comments in mind. And once our last panelist has finished, please feel free to put those in the chat. So I'm going to turn it over to our first panelist. So Ronan Christian is going to join us first and talk about his experience.
All right, so an experience that I've had with self-advocacy was when I was in gym class, and I ended up kind of off to the side because I guess there wasn't really much for me to do that class. But then I decided, hey, why not just figure out a way to make it easier? So I had gone up to my PE teacher and said, hey, can I put something that makes noise on this ball over here? And at first she was a little hesitant about it, I guess. But then later on, I had grabbed a ball that was given to me at for virtual capabilities. And I ended up bringing that in, and we stored it for any time I needed to use a ball with bells in it. And I guess it ended up pretty good.
Ronan, when you say it ended up pretty good, can you explain what that means?
I just now have a ball with bells in it for if I ever need to have anything that makes noise.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, so we'll turn it over to our next panelist. I believe that is Elora Watkins. And Elora, if you could also just give us maybe a little brief introduction to who you are, that would be maybe helpful before you get into your story.
Yes, so hi, my name is Elora Watkins. I am 15 and I've been going to Camp Abilities. I think I figured out that this year was my 6th year. So I've been there a couple times now. My 2 main sports that I'm involved in are dancing and swimming. I've been very thankful in swimming that I haven't needed many modifications, or I haven't had to advocate for much at all. But dance being more visual of a sport, I've had to work on it a little more. 2 very specific stories are back during COVID, everyone was wearing masks and we had to keep the doors open and like fans going just to keep air circulation for the germs and whatnot. And so I found that it was very hard for me to hear what the teachers were saying and the music with all the noise coming from the other classes and the fans. So I asked my teachers how it would be, if it would be able to be fixed in a way that maybe the just one of the things like the doors could be shut, or they could speak a little louder, or the music could be just a bit louder so I could hear it. And they were very willing to make the changes. They figured out that they could then shut the doors and they could make their voices louder and the music louder. And from that moment on, it was very easy for me to hear everything that I needed to hear. The second example was this year, very recent, and we were getting ready for the end of the year performance. And so I needed some help with some of the moves and getting it down. So I, with the help of my mom, reached out to the dance teachers, wondering if there's a way that they could show me it in a way that I could, I guess, see it or feel it. So when we went to class the next week, I brainstormed some things with my teachers. So in classes, they had a student teacher who would stand right in front of me and show me or describe to me, like, do this with your right foot. So I knew what was going on. And then they also used a student teacher or themselves to record them dancing, and then they would send it to me so I could also go back and look as close as I needed to at home to practice the dances.
So Laura, it sounds like you've had a really positive experience with the people you've reached out to help with your needs. Have you ever run into a situation where you've received resistance when you've asked for help or modifications or any other types of self-advocacy?
It's been fairly easy to communicate with everyone that I'm around and teachers. And if I don't get it immediately, I always like to try a different angle, whether that's using a different tactic, I guess, to get the outcome that I wanted. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. That's great. It's great to know that you've tried multiple ways to reach out. Again, as Ruth mentioned, that communication piece is definitely super important. So it sounds like you're really great at that. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. All right, we'll move on to our third panelist. So Andrew Mead Colgrove is our third one. So if you want to go ahead and share a little bit about yourself and then talk about your self-advocacy stories.
So my name is Andrew Mead Colgrove. I'm 18 years old. I've been attending Campability since I was 9. I just completed my freshman year at SUNY Brockport. And my story is about my gym class. I've had the same gym teacher from 6th grade to 12th grade. I tried to get goal ball into gym class. Did not go so well. I explained what it was. I told them about the goal ball kit that the school purchased because I created a goal ball team at my school that was like a after school program. So like summer ball or recreational goal ball. And we had that on Saturdays for 2 years, and then it fell through because I graduated. But back to the gym story, I explained what it was. I explained the kit, got a lot of pushback. And I got excuses like it takes too long to set up because it takes, with one person doing it, 40 minutes. Gym teacher lived about 30 minutes away, so he didn't want to drive in an extra 40 minutes earlier to set up the court, which then made me upset. I tried from 8th grade to 12th grade, and every single year I got a different response. I tried to advocate for adaptive equipment in gym, which rarely happened. I had to become my own gym teacher and bring in my own equipment from home, which half of the time when I wasn't there, the other kids were using. And one time I found one of my bell soccer balls punted up into the rafters of the gym, which was probably about 70 feet in the air, that I spent my own money on. So then I stopped bringing in my own equipment. My TVI also gave my gym teacher some equipment to use. He rarely used it, and if he did, it would break because according to him, my kick for kickball or mat ball, which is kickball but with giant mats and you could load the bases, is too powerful and I'd break it, or the other kids would take it and break it. So I have found ways to be physically active outside of school, playing blind ice hockey, running around. During the summer, I'm always outdoors. So instead of being physically active in gym, I am physically active outside by playing sports and also playing blind ice hockey.
Thank you, Andrew. And I'm really glad you included this particular story because I think it highlights the fact that sometimes no matter what we do, we don't get what we need, and we have to, like you say, go outside and create your own opportunities, because it certainly sounds like you did every single thing you could to try to persuade this particular teacher to include goalball and these other sports that you wanted to do. So
I've done more than that. Dr. Lieberman has come down with some of her students from SUNY Brockport on multiple occasions to present to all the gym teachers. And for my particular gym teacher, it was in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, but I am
That's
glad
okay.
I'm glad you graduated.
I'm glad I graduated, and I'm glad I found blind ice hockey. I'm not gonna lie.
Great. Thank you, Andrew.
No problem.
All right, next up we have Susan. So Susan, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and giving us a little intro and then telling us about your story.
Okay, so my name is Susan Bondi and I'm 12 years old. I'd just like to say the sports that I'm doing or have done to like show that you can basically do any sports with accommodations. I used to do dance and swimming. Currently, I do a downhill skiing, Nordic, which is cross-country skiing, soccer, track and field, and sailing. I've got two stories, which one is about soccer and one is about Nordic skiing. So my first story is about soccer. So this was a few years ago when I was on a different soccer team. I was playing a game and I had trouble seeing the ball because it just wasn't the right color. It blended in with the grass and the sun was out. So I went over to my soccer coach and asked him, could we switch the ball? He said that he'd be fine with it, but he couldn't do it and that it was the ref's decision. So he asked the ref for me and the ref said no. So we worked out where he would just like sort of center around and tell me where the soccer ball is. So then I could play better. I would like to say it is really great to have like an adult or a teacher that you know that can help you with your accommodations. Because like at school, if I don't get something and I need to self-advocate, I've got certain teachers I go to. The story about Nordic, which is cross-country skiing, this is a story about how I didn't advocate and how it didn't turn out well since I didn't advocate for myself. So we were skiing a course and it was a bad course. There were tiny flags on the side and I was the third to last race to go. So other people knocked down the tiny flags. And before my race, I knew I had no idea where I was going and I knew I couldn't see the course, but I didn't ask anyone for any help or if anyone could ski with me to show me my course that's going on. So what I ended up doing was going off the course because to cross country ski, it's really good to have your snow packed so then you can ski better. But this was like at a school, so the snow wasn't packed well. So I couldn't tell the difference between the unpacked snow and the packed snow. So I kept going off the course since I couldn't see the tiny flags and there was nothing else. And then in the end, I ended up cutting through the course, not realizing it, and being very upset with myself. And that was the time that I didn't advocate, which if I did, I could have probably gotten something out of it.
Thank you, Susan. Those are two really great stories. I like how you have a really good example of when you did advocate and how it worked out for yourself. And then another time where, you know, maybe not so much, but we all learn from those things, definitely. So thank you for sharing both perspectives of that. So that kind of ends our stories, at least from our panel who kind of prepared these in advance, but we definitely want to have an opportunity to open this up to our participants to ask any questions from the students' perspective about self-advocacy. So I'm going to go to the chat right now and see what we have.
And I think while Melanie's doing that, I was wondering, Ronan, could you give us a little intro and let us know a bit about yourself and the sports you play and how long you've been coming to Camp Abilities, because we didn't hear that from you.
All right. Hi, my name is Ronan. I'm 16. I'm from Buffalo, New York. And I'm a wrestler.
Great.
And
how many times have you come to Camp Abilities?
I've been there for, I think, 7+ years now.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So we do have one question in the chat asking where is Camp Abilities located. So I can give you a brief overview of that. So the original location is in Brockport, New York. So it was started by Dr. Lauren Lieberman, I think over 25 years ago now. They just celebrated their official 25th anniversary, though it should have been, I think last year, but COVID and stuff, we kind of held off. But there are locations around the United States, and there's also several locations in other countries. Dr. Lieberman is actually currently in Switzerland, starting a Camp Abilities there, which is pretty awesome. So they're all over the place. But our panel have gone to the one here in Brockport. I'm not sure if they've gone to any other locations.
This is Andrew speaking. I've been to Camp Abilities Brockport, Camp Abilities Utica, which is up in the Adirondack Mountains. I've gone to Camp Abilities Saratoga, which is in Skidmore College. And I've also gone to Camp Abilities Badger, which I think was in Spencerport, New York.
That's amazing.
I know also in New York State, there's a Camp Abilities Long Island that I have not attended because Long Island is about 8 to 10 hours by car away from me. I live an hour south of Buffalo.
We've definitely got some good experience at the different camps. So while we kind of wait for questions, I kind of had one. You guys shared all these different stories about self-advocacy, but I'm curious, when did you first either kind of learn about self-advocacy, or maybe what kind of pushed you to start doing that initially?
This is Andrew speaking again. I guess I will start it off. How I learned about self-advocacy was through Camp Abilities and Dr. Lieberman, because me and her every summer, she'll pull me aside and be like, how's your gym class going? And I will give her the same story. And then she heard that a few times, and then she told me how to self-advocate. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to test this out. And I have not stopped testing it out because of that situation. And now in college, I'm still self-advocating for myself, and I will continue to self-advocate for myself until I retire. And then I probably still even after that.
Excellent. Does anybody else want to share their kind of start with self-advocacy, or when they learned about it, or?
This is Elora, and when I learned about it, I was very young. I have a vision teacher, and she's awesome, and I'm very thankful for her, and she taught me as I started with her in kindergarten. So from that moment on has always been putting the idea of self-advocacy in my mind whenever we do mobility, or even just in school. From kindergarten on, now going into 10th grade, it's always advocating for my needs in the classroom, or as Andrew said, in gym class, or even just in on mobility out in the public. So ever since I've been in school.
Excellent. Yeah, teachers can make such a huge impression. And so it's fantastic to know that it started all the way back in kindergarten for you.
Yeah,
Okay, so
thanks, Elora. I just wanted to say, sorry to interrupt you, Susan, that I think it's really interesting that that finding a mentor or a sort of a friend in school or a coach, someone that you can talk with ahead of time and plan with and just get some mentorship from has been very helpful for most of you. So just wanted to point that out. I'm sorry to interrupt, Susan.
Oh no, it's okay. So I don't even know how long and how I started self-advocating, but I do know that I knew that I started self-advocating like third grade-ish, because like my teacher was like, oh, great job self-advocating. And I was like, what? And she's like, it's self-advocating. And I was just like, huh? What does that mean? So she told me what that means. And apparently I've been doing it for a while, because I'm the type of person where if I don't get what I want or accommodations, I like have to keep on trying until I at least know there's no way, or until I get the outcome that I wanted. And also my TVI also helps me a lot. And I'd also like to point out that you can self-advocate like anywhere, anyhow, because another teacher that I go to is my orchestra teacher, because she's very good at enlarging things and making sure that I can read my music.
Yeah, that's great. Definitely self-advocacy extends way beyond just the physical education setting. So it's great you've been able to do it in other settings as well, and kind of using that whenever you need it, regardless of the situation. So that's fantastic. Ronan, did you want to share yours, or we have a couple of questions in the chat we can move on to, but I wanted to give you an opportunity if you wanted to respond.
Yep, I'll respond. Hi, this is Ronan. So
Are you still there, Ronan?
could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I was just asking how you either first learned about self-advocacy, or maybe when you first kind of started doing it, and what maybe facilitated that.
So I kind of first started using self-advocacy when I was part of the YES program through VIA in Buffalo. And they had us doing a lot of like home ec stuff, a lot of advocating for what we need in public and public living. And so that's how I first, I guess, started using self-advocacy.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good program.
All right, we do have some questions in the chat I'd like to get to. So we have one that says, I live in the mountains of Colorado and I'm a passionate Nordic skier and have always wanted to start some kind of club, but don't know how to start. Can the final panelist, Susan, talk about where she participated and any advice you can give?
Okay, so actually, I didn't have trouble getting into Nordic since my school has its own Nordic team. I would say that if you would like to start like your own, you should find an adult slash a coach who first off can Nordic ski and is willing to put in the time to like do fundraisers and that stuff, because it is quite an expensive sport because you need the skis, you need the boots, you need all of that stuff. But I would say that for sure you should try to get a Nordic team because it is very much fun, and to just like find an adult that can help you along the ways so then you can be able to do it.
Thank you,
Great.
Susan.
Thanks, Susan. I'll ask the next question to all the panelists, and if anyone in particular wants to jump in, that would be great. So the question is, in your encounters with sighted people, when you are self-advocating, did you feel like there was a fear of the unknown? And I'm guessing that the fear is in the person that you're speaking to.
This is Andrew speaking. I knew that there was some fear in I really it doesn't bother me if there's fear in the person that is I'm speaking to. And if it is, then they need to overcome that fear, because I'm in gym class and you're going to get hurt in gym class no matter if you're blind or sighted. I've seen it happen many times. It's happened to me, it's happened to my friends. So if they have the fear of like, oh, this person can't do this because we're afraid they're going to get hurt, everyone's going to get hurt no matter what you do. You make a wrong move, you turn too quick in dodgeball, twist your ankle, you're down. That's going to happen to anyone.
Thank you. Go ahead.
This is Elora. My experience with that, and if there's fear, I feel that there can be a lot of fear, especially if they know that you're visually impaired. Sometimes they may not, but if they do, then I've heard the saying before. People will say to me, I don't know if this is safe for you, or anything along those lines. I've heard that many a time. And I used to, when I was younger, not know how to respond to that and let them, I guess, say that and not do it because of that fear that they had. But now I know that, like Andrew said, anyone can get hurt. It's not specific to someone with a disability. So there is fear, and that can happen, but you have to be your own advocate and say, well, I know where I stand in this realm and I feel comfortable doing it. So therefore, I would like if I could participate.
Thanks, Elora. Anyone else have anything they want to share on that topic?
So at least I don't think that the people that I talk to have fear. Like sometimes they just have a slight fear, but they know, usually if I self-advocate, I go to someone that I know that can like help, or that I know well enough that also knows me. So like either they know that I can do it and I will actually listen, or that if they don't feel confident in me doing it, then they just have to tell me and we'll work something out. Also, there hasn't really been a fear of me self-advocating for something, because if I'm self-advocating for something, then it means that I'm doing something for what I want. So there's really no fear, because the worst that can really happen is they say no.
Thanks, Susan. I think that's a really good point. And I appreciated that you said you're strategic about who you ask for things, because I think that's part of the preparation, is making sure, in most cases, not all, that you're speaking to the right person about what you need. So I appreciated you saying that. Thank you. Okay,
Right.
Go ahead, Melanie.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we'll move on to the next question. This one's specifically for Andrew. It says, just wondered if physical education was required in your school. If so, it seems that you are required to participate and the instructor should adapt his teaching accordingly. Also, could the adaptations or modifications be included in the IEP? It sounds like you did everything you could to work directly with the instructor. And if you wanted to respond at all.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, physical education was required. And yes, I had adaptations in my IEP. My gym teacher has told me on multiple occasions, I don't care what you're doing as long as you do something. So, yeah, that really knocked me to the ground. But I just tune him out, to be honest with you. I just act like him. It goes in one ear and out the other. And I'm like, yep, all right, cool, whatever. He focuses more on his athletes and he focuses more on his athletes that play sports at our school, and especially his athletes, because he coaches some sports. So he focuses more on them than he focuses on anybody else, and especially me, because I'm not speaking for him, but in his mind, I am a burden to him and I am too much work for him to deal with. So I have to be my own gym teacher, which is why I am glad I walked across that stage and I am now at college.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a great feeling, Andrew. I'm very, very sorry you had to deal with that situation. It sounds like the teacher could definitely use a change of mindset a little bit in regards to that. So I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
And I'm sorry for the people behind me who have to deal with him.
Yeah, that's very true as well. But you know, at least you spoke up for yourself, which is fantastic. Absolutely. All right, we have, let's see. Sorry, I'm losing my place in the
Oh, I can take the
chat
next
here.
one.
If you want to do the next one.
Yeah, sure. So
Okay.
the next question's from Sophie, and it's to the panelists. And the question is, there are some of our students that have a hard time advocating. They say they're too shy. What would you suggest to them, or what could be a first step to try with? All you panelists are such great role models. What can you share?
This is Andrew. I'd suggest, before you advocate to the person, find a parent, teacher, guardian, or even your TVI orientation and mobility instructor, anyone you trust, and just sit down with them and explain to them, I want you to be this coach. And then you talk it out, and the coach or whoever you trust is going to act like the coach that you're trying to talk to, and they're going to act like they don't know anything about adaptation. So they're going to say things like, I'm not so sure about this. I don't feel comfortable doing this. And then you explain to them the adaptations and you go from there. And if that doesn't work, then you just start going up the chain of command. If it's school, there should be a disability coordinator person. If that doesn't work, you go to the superintendent. If that doesn't work, you take legal action. No problem.
I agree with everything that Andrew said. But if you're shy and you just don't want to talk to the teacher or even to your TVI, then sending an email is a great option to talk to teachers. I do it all the time, but super easy. You can get all your thoughts out in a way that the teacher can see it and read it and respond to it, but you don't have to be face to face with them and your nerves won't get in the way.
Laura, I think that's a great tip. And I think too, if you're setting up a meeting with a teacher and you want to talk to them, give them some advance warning about what you want to talk about. So like you said, they can kind of think about it a little bit and get into the right mindset before the conversation. Does anyone have any other tips for students who might be shy?
Hey, this is Ronan. I would say just for being shy about asking, try and get everything together in a, I guess, neat form, and of course try and get into a personal one-on-one with whoever you're trying to advocate to. And once you have a kind of flashcard layout of what you're gonna go over, then you'll be golden.
This is Susan. I just like to, sorry, my puppy's barking. This is Susan, and I just like to say I agree with all of them, and they have basically covered it all. So I don't really have much to say except for the fact that it is better if you find like someone, even if it's a friend or an adult, that you can go to and write it out for them and tell them what you need, because it's better that you self-advocate to someone that you trust that can self-advocate to other people than not self-advocating at all and not even having a shot at getting your accommodations.
That's a great suggestion, Susan. Thank you. And I just want to say, we have as we wrap up our presentation, we do have some resources available. And one of them is a self-advocacy playbook that I worked on with an amazing team of people. And in the playbook, there are sample scripts that where students can fill in the blanks. And that can help give you that format that a student might need to practice their self-advocacy. And like a couple of our panelists said, I think rehearsing it is really important. So practicing it, trying it out with different people so they get very comfortable speaking up, speaking clearly, speaking slowly. I think that makes a big difference. And that workbook is free to download on the Capabilities website.
All right, we have a question from Lynn. Lynn asks, does anyone have information about getting to join sports in public school? In particular, I have students who are running into difficulties with passing physicals to get to play. They are also being told they can only play with certain eyewear. These kids cannot afford the version of eyewear that could really work for sports and their conditions. The ones afforded by the school do not stay on or impede their vision. Let's see, sorry. I wish I could help them overcome these obstacles to get to participate. Any suggestions?
So this is Andrew speaking. About the eyewear, I would suggest talking to your local Lions Club, because this is something that the Lions Club want to do and help. If you don't have a Lions Club, you try like a local Beaver Club or some type of club along that line. And that's my advice for getting the eyewear. I will let the other panelists talk about solutions for the others.
So this is Elora, and I can speak on the physicals, which I had to pass to get into swimming as a 7th grader. So at least how they do it at our school, you have to pass like 5 of the 6 or something like that. So a lot of them are just about speed and reps. So the sit-ups, you just got to go. And a lot of it is constant practice, doing it every day, leading up to the tests. Most schools, if not all, let you try the tests again. And then if it's something like the shuttle run, which we have to do in gym class and always has to get modified, I have one person on one end and another person on the other end from where I'm running from. And the person, instead of having me feel on the floor for the bean bag or whatever it is I have to pick up to run to the next side, they will hand it to me, because as a visually impaired person, time can be added for feeling around for it. So there can always be modifications. Speaking to the person giving the test, and the sports director at the school is a smart idea, but also constant practice will make progress.
I would just like to add too, I don't have an answer for the eyewear, but that sounds very difficult to manage. And I'm happy to put that question to Lauren just to see if she has an idea of someone to contact or an idea of what to do about that. And if anyone else has an idea, please put it in the chat, because that seems really difficult to overcome.
I like what Andrew said about reaching out to the Lions Club. We have a great chapter here in Brockport, and they're constantly taking requests from individuals about, funding for things of this nature. So I think that's a really great resource to reach out to if you have a local chapter.
Hi, this is Ronan. I just wanted to add to the side for physicals. So I'm a wrestler, and I got lucky with the fact that wrestling is also very open to the blind, but there is a lot more like hoops you have to jump through. And I found like something that helps with that is just letting them know, like give them as much information as possible so that they know exactly what you can and can't do.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Ronan. And I think preparing people as much as possible for a conversation about something that you might need, or modifications that need to be ready for a particular event are really helpful, because people don't like to be surprised. So thanks for saying that.
Looks like we have one final question in our chat, so I'd like to try and get to it. It looks like it's a multi-part one. It says, for those who participated in dance, how did you juggle the accommodation of them trying to describe the moves in the fact that dance goes fast? How could they instruct her to both at the same time? Perhaps they showed you separately without the music. That tends to go fast and dance. I found this to be a problem. Following Dan said it simply went too fast for people to describe things to me or show me how to do things. So how did that work? Also, did the instructor or an assistant stand very close to you so you could see them if you have vision, or hear them if you couldn't see them?
So this is Elora. I've been to 2 studios. The first studio that I went to was very hard to get accommodations, and I ended up switching studios, not just for that reason, but I also wanted to try different styles of dance, including hip hop, which is very fast. So at least at my studio, for all students, not just me, they take everything out, and before, with the music, you learn it very slowly and you speed it up and eventually put it with the music. If that's not how it already is set up at the studio, it would be a great suggestion to add in. And it doesn't even have to single out you, because at my studio, I'm the only visually impaired person, but everyone does it slow to start so we can get to know it and then we speed it up. And I do have a student teacher stand in front of me so I can see as much as I can, but I also have them describe and they make sure I'm all good before we get right into the music. So if I can't see it, they will describe I'm kicking with my right leg with my toes pointed or whatever the case may be. So descriptions are always nice, and the teachers you can ask them to add that into their normal instructions too, to just be a little more descriptive.
Great. Thank you so much for your advice. That's really, I think, going to be helpful. So we are running a little short on time at this point, and it looks like we got through all the questions, which is great. As Ruth mentioned, we do have a few resources for the audience. So there's a couple of books. One Ruth already mentioned, so that one's up on the screen here. There's a picture of it. It's called the Self-Advocacy Playbook. As Ruth mentioned, there's some scripts in there, lots of helpful information. There's several different prompts as well to kind of get you thinking about this. Ruth, I don't know if you want to add any more about the book that you haven't already said.
Just that it's really geared towards young adults and middle school, high school students. So we called it a playbook because we really want people to think of self-advocacy as a sport, as something that you can continue to work on throughout your life, rather than just this magical gift that some people have. So we hope that it's very accessible and easy to go through. And then this is a book that's coming out this fall that I was one of the editors of, along with Lauren Lieberman and Mary Connolly, and it's about infusing self-advocacy into physical education and health education. And there's also a whole section on different lesson plans and activities. So if there are any teachers or coaches out there, we hope that this will be specifically useful for you, but it's also for parents, teachers, anyone interested in teaching self-advocacy.
This is available through APH. So this is called Possibilities, Recreational Experiences of Individuals Who Are Deaf-Blind. So this just is another resource that provides voices to athletes about their experience in their different sports. Includes elements of self-advocacy within that. So our panel was fantastic at providing their stories. If you'd like to kind of read up on some additional ones, that's a good resource. And then we have several websites. Obviously, APH is a great resource for different books and products, as well as equipment and videos. Our Campabilities website is full of useful resources. If you go to our website under instructional materials, there's a plethora of videos, books, there's several tip sheets. As Ruth mentioned, the Self-Advocacy Playbook is located under there. It's a downloadable PDF. We also have a tip sheet located there on an advocacy curriculum that can be infused within physical education. There's also a series of sport inclusion videos. So for example, if you're not sure what students might be advocating for, or if you are working with a student and they need maybe more information on how to make things more accessible and potentially things that they could advocate for in physical education, those videos are really helpful. Perkins School for the Blind has lots of good resources, as well as the United States Association for Blind Athletes. So we want to thank you very, very much for attending this webinar. We especially want to thank our 4 amazing panelists for sharing their experience, sharing their wisdom, sharing all the advice that they have. We really appreciate them taking time out of a Wednesday evening and sharing all of their knowledge about self-advocacy with us. And just wanted to provide some contact information for Ruth and myself. So if you have any follow-up questions that you would like to ask, please feel free to email either one of us or both of us, and we would be happy to respond. But I think we're right a little bit over time, and I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. So I want to again thank everyone so much for attending, and again for our panelists. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Ruth, before we
No,
sign
just
off.
thank you to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to have this important conversation. I really appreciate it.
And this is Melissa, and I just want to thank both of you for putting on an amazing webinar, and the student athletes. It's really powerful to hear from the student athletes. So I appreciate everybody putting their time into that. And I'm going to pause the recording just for a moment. Once again, we want to thank you all for joining us this evening. It was an amazing webinar, and appreciate all of your time and effort put into this. Hope you all have a wonderful night.